Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Being B Hockey Talk. And, of course, being Friday, today is our special Vancouver Canucks edition. I'm Aaron Blocks with my co-host, Mr. Matthew Balzer. Welcome. Canucks.
Yeah.
Canucks, last few games. Last night anyways, against the Arizona Coyotes. Not looking too hot, losing in overtime, playing a dull, boring game, especially when it came to trying to hold on to that lead again in the third period. They just, for whatever reason, whenever they try to hold the lead like that, the wheels are going to fall off.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like, but at least it was good to see, like Adam Gaudette, he made the mistake on the second goal, lost his man in the slot there, but thankfully, Travis Green actually gave a young guy some ice time after he made a mistake, and man, what a goal did he score going bar down there. He scored 4 goals in his last 8 NHL games now, and 5 points in that time. And most of that ice time has only been between like 9-10 minutes of ice time in those games. So it's really good to see that he's starting to produce, even in limited ice time, that he's gaining that confidence every game.
Absolutely. Antoine Roussel, of course, assisting on that one and the first goal with Horvat. He's been a nice surprise this year for the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, so he's past Nikolai Godolin now for 4th on the team in points. 7 goals, 20 assists on the season. The 20 assists is now a career high for him, and he's only 2 points back of his career high in points in a season of 29. So, and he's definitely going to pass that this year. But I think the best thing is I keep seeing is like those backhand passes backdoor. It's like we saw that like the first game after the All-Star break, him setting up Virtanen for a goal. Then he had that game in Washington where he set up Granlund with a nice backhand pass. And then last night with a nice pass backdoor to Horvat. So he's a very underrated playmaker. And bringing up the Canucks power play, they're 4 for 53 in their those last attempts. I wouldn't mind seeing him on the power play just to try to switch things up, just to try to get things going, because like when your only option is like, well, Pettersson and Besser hasn't been getting many attempts over these past few games. When you're just a one shot team or whatever, it's difficult to get goals like that.
Only 2 games this past week since our last Canucks episode. Canucks actually looked pretty decent this time against the San Jose Sharks, but fell short 3-2 in San Jose against a very good San Jose team. Couple of kids have got to play over the last few games. We saw, of course, Zach McEwen play a few games. Guillaume Brisebois got to play in a couple of games, and last night Ashton Schottner got to play. What do you think of these kids, and do you see them potentially on this team in the long term, whether it's later this season or to start next season?
Yeah. McEwen, he was like a healthy scratch last night in the San Jose game after when he had that great fight. He didn't play it, or he didn't get another shift for the rest of the game after that one. So that one's a little frustrating, just because I thought he played pretty decently in the other 2 games. But I'm maybe after the trade deadline, just to see what the Canucks do, maybe he'll get back in the lineup if the Canucks make a couple of roster moves. Brisebois, I thought he was all right. Like he didn't get too much ice time. Stottner, I didn't see much from the game last night. But going back from last year, I went to one of the Canucks final games against the Ducks when he had a call up, and I liked his game there. Good stay-at-home defenseman, but he was able to get under guys' skin, giving them like a couple extra shots and stuff, which I would expect from Stottner, being a pretty steady stay-at-home defenseman. He's had a bit of a tough year because I believe he had a fractured cheekbone and was out for a couple of months down in Utica. But he's a guy I wouldn't mind seeing just on the bottom pairing, gain a few minutes here.
And a couple of veterans on the Canucks now. Ryan Spooner made his Vancouver Canuck debut yesterday, and Luke Shen may or may not get into the lineup here over the next couple games, depending on what they want to do. But is this a chance for either one of them to resurrect their careers?
Yeah, I think Ryan Spooner for sure. Just watching the highlights from last night's game, he had a couple really nice chances. And reading up on his play, I think 5-on-5 he's just been okay, but I think where he can help the Canucks is on the power play. Just reading up on that, he's really good at setting up teammates for scoring chances and getting the puck in the net. Like I believe it was the second period. I believe Gaudette had like a nice cross ice pass to him, and he one-timed it for a really nice scoring chance, but Kemper stopped him. But just for my optimistic, I think Spooner could improve. Like if you look at last year, when he got traded to the Rangers, he had 16 points in 20 games. So he has shown that he can put points up. It's just that this year it's been really tough for him. He only has the 5 points in 42, 43 games this year. But yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more of him. And Shen, I think we could do a game without Eric Goodbranson on the back end. He played a season low 12 minutes and 11 seconds of ice time against the Coyotes, as the Canucks can only play Ben Hutton and Stetcher so much without going to the other 4 defensemen, because like Stetcher was over 30 minutes again. Hutton was around like the 27, 28 mark, and then you got Biega and Pouliot as your second highest defenseman in ice time. So it'll be interesting because you can't scratch Goodbranson just because of his contract and maybe getting a trade, and maybe the Florida Panthers. Can you please take him back, and maybe we can swindle you out of another good player or something.
Yeah, maybe they'll do Barkov straight up. Tongue in cheek, of course. No question on Ben Hutton's conditioning this year from Coach Travis Green. Much improved play with him and Stetcher back there. Against the Islanders tomorrow night, it might be interesting to see if the Canucks have any healthy scratches like some of the other teams have been doing leading up to the trade deadline, which, of course, we're going to cover exclusively on Monday. Any assets that you see the Canucks potentially moving, because to me, a lot of the assets that people want to see move, they're all on the IR right now. Barchi, Virtanen, Sutter, Edler, Tanev, right? We talked before we came on air that potentially Schaller or Goodbranson or Granlund might be out there. But do you actually see the Canucks moving any of these guys prior to the deadline?
Yeah, I think it might be a pretty quiet trade deadline. Like I'm hoping we can trade a guy like Granlund or Schaller, just try to get those contracts off our books for maybe like a prospect or a late round draft pick. Because like the biggest thing is heading into this year's draft, the more picks you have, the higher the chance you can get to an NHL player. Like the one that always gets brought up was when the Canucks traded Rafael Diaz to the New York Rangers for a 5th round pick. Well, that 5th round pick turned into Adam Gaudette. So, that's been looking good so far. So the more picks, the better. It doesn't matter really what round, even though most of the guys that could get a higher draft pick, like Alex Edler, he's got that no trade clause. And Jim Benning came out today saying they are looking to re-sign him. But yeah, the toughest thing is that most of these veteran guys, they either have term on their contract or they're just injury prone. So it's tough to move guys like that.
Yeah, for sure. Canucks playing, like I said, the Islanders tomorrow night. Should be interesting because I always love to compare Brock Besser to Matt Barzal.
Yeah.
The potential – they had the showdown last year. Obviously, it didn't turn out well for Brock when the Islanders came to Vancouver last year. I wonder if he'll remember that when he's lined up against Cal Clutterbuck. But, you've got some interesting stats that I know you're going to share with the Canuck players since the All-Star break. Why don't you share those and speculate on, like, there's definitely room for improvement here, is there not?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so the top 5 leading scorers since the All-Star break, there have been 10 games played. Pettersson leads with 3 goals, 9 points. Antoine Roussel is second in points with 2 goals and 8 points. Brock Besser has 5 goals and 7 points. Levo has 2 goals and 5 points, and Bo Horvat has 3 goals and 5 points since the All-Star break. So the big guns are up there, but Antoine Roussel, surprisingly, right behind Pettersson, as he's gotten a really nice point streak going. But yeah, it's like Bo Horvat, he's having a difficult time getting the puck in the net, even though he scored last night. Like Besser's only 5 points behind him now in the Canuck point totals. But yeah, and that just shows a lack of depth scoring outside of the big 3. because like Nikolai Godolbin, like will he get traded at the trade deadline just with all the healthy scratches and stuff? I could see him getting moved. But yeah, it just shows like we need guys that can support the big three every once in a while.
Yeah, there are definitely a few pieces still missing. We're hoping, of course, that Quinn Hughes is one of those pieces. And who knows, this free agency this summer, they could add another piece or two, maybe even at this trade deadline or at the draft. I'm going to be very curious to see what they do. Because, I mean, it would be nice if they were like Winnipeg where they had another 3 or 4 pieces moving forward. You would have a strong, young core that you can build around for sure. You also had an interesting stat about Bo Horvat and his wingers, and that to me, is huge for one of the reasons why he's struggling. He has no consistent wingers this year that he's had to play with.
Yeah. So this stat is courtesy of Jeff Patterson for the work that he did after last night's game. It was the 27th different winger combo that Bo Horvat's had this season. We've seen him play with Tim Schaller and all those lovely players on his line. But
hey, he's played with Pedersen and Besser.
yeah, he's played with Pedersen and Besser. The one line I would like would have been Roussel and Virtanen for a while, but with Virtanen hurt now, and Green usually likes playing Roussel with Sutter and those types of guys instead for some reason. But yeah, it just shows it's just like with all the struggles that he's had of late, like when you don't have consistent winger pairings, and like last year we saw him play with Berchi and Besser a bunch, but Green likes Besser with Pedersen now, and with Berchi and his concussion problems, we don't know where his career is going to go at the end of this season. It has to be at the top of the Canucks priority list to find somebody who can play with Bo Horvat either at this trade deadline or in free agency on July 1st, because he can't keep doing it by himself and just look around and just be like, oh, hey, there's $6 million Louis Eriksson who still only has 21 points, 61 games. You got to find somebody to play with him.
Well, and I'm not sure if Spooner and Levo are the answer either. So, Canuck prospects, not a whole lot happening there, but you've got a couple updates for us.
Yeah, so Jonathan Dahlen's up to 14 goals, 29 points in 50 games. I saw a little report saying that the Canucks may have soured on him, which I sure hope not, just because it's his first year in North America and he's still getting that adjustment period, because it has been a disappointing year, at least in Utica, for guys like Cole Lind and Jonah Gadovich, where we thought, at least for me, like for Cole Lind, I thought he was going to have a big year down in Utica, but he only has 11.
Just lack of playing time, I think. I think as much as I like Utica and the organization, I think they've really mismanaged the Canucks prospects down there this year, playing veterans instead of trying to develop players for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I brought up in a past episode, like I saw like a chart where Jonathan Dahlen was like the only consistent young guy that was getting top 6 minutes consistently. And if we go outside of Utica, Jet Wu continues to tear it up. 11 goals, 50 points in 49 games. Michael DiPietro is 9-2 in 11 games since going over to the Ottawa 67s. His save percentage has dropped to .890 with Ottawa, but he did have a .920 save percentage in 21 games with Windsor before getting traded there. But Ottawa is one of the top teams in the Ontario Hockey League, so he's getting a less shots there, but he's still having a fantastic year. And Quinn Hughes, of course, is up to 4 goals, 29 points in 26 games. We should be seeing him next month. As Jim Benning came out, was like, as soon as he wants to turn pro, we're signing him and we're getting him on a plane out here, sort of thing. But other than that, it's been pretty quiet, and the rest of the prospects have sort of been right where they've been at since the past week.
Why don't you fill us in on the injury report and end the show with final comments?
All right, yeah. So Chris Tanev is going to be out at least a few weeks with an ankle injury. Alex Edler and Thatcher Demko have been skating sort of by themselves. Sven Berchi is still with the post-concussion symptoms. We don't know how long he's going to be out. And, of course, Jake Virtanen with that fractured rib. is out a month if you missed that on last week's episode. So for tonight, I'll have the rest of yesterday's highlights up. I started posting some before we did the show. I'll finish that up. And then 5 games on tonight's schedule. Those will be all up on our Facebook page under the same name, BMB Hockey Talk. And, of course, yes, we will be back Monday. We'll be discussing all the big trades. We had the Matt Duchene trade today to Columbus. And hopefully some of those other big name guys like a Panarin or Mark Stone. We'll see what exactly happens with all those guys on Monday.
And, of course, on Monday, we're going to touch on the Connor McDavid suspension. So if you don't know about it yet, stay tuned. And on Monday, we're going to fill you in. So everyone have a great weekend. Lots of hockey to be watched. Lots of hockey to be played. Enjoy. There's lots of great games on tap. Enjoy the trade deadline as teams get finalized here for the final stretch before the amazing Stanley Cup playoffs get started. To me, that's like Christmas time. So I don't know if you're excited, but I know I'm excited. It's going to be great. And we will see you guys on Monday.